Hello, puppies and kittens. Welcome to another episode of The Raw Men. We haven't done one of these in about 5 months. This is episode 123, and we're talking about Secular Student Alliance. And remember that the goal of this show, the motive, is that, as I've said a number of times before in previous episodes, anybody can complain and everybody does. But I want to talk to the people who not only have a plan for how things could be better, but are actually already working toward that end. And the Secular Student Alliance, I think, definitely fits into that category. So today we are talking with Mr. Bolling, Kevin Bolling, who is the executive director of the SSA. And sir, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here with you today. I appreciate it.
So what is the goal of the Secular Student Alliance? And because I have intimate familiarity with it, I've spoken to your group in a number of different places. But let other people know, please, what this organization is all about and what it does.
Of course, and you've been a great, long-time friend of the Secular Student Alliance. And I mean, obviously, there's the organization. So, we're a national nonprofit within the larger secular movement, working with lots of the other secular organizations. But our organization is really specifically focused on helping non-religious students. So, college and universities, high schools, middle schools, and so the mission is really to help them proudly express their identity, build welcoming communities, promote secular values, and then set a course for lifelong activism. But I would say the heart of our organization is really the hundreds and hundreds of students all across the country at schools and campuses who have their own organizations on their campuses and are having meetings and having discussions and doing programs and community service and all those things that are really helping normalize non-religion in the communities and making their communities better places.
Well, let's clarify, what does it mean to normalize, like non-religious? I think we have a basic grasp of secular values, or maybe we need to cover that too. But we'll start with the non-religious perspective.
Well, and for us, one of the things that we have done a lot of outreach and education about, even more recently, is the number and the percentage of this upcoming generation, the younger generation, who are non-religious. And so we know almost 50% of this generation is non-religious. And so even with those numbers, we will get calls from students on a campus who are like, I think I'm the only one on this campus. And we're like, trust us, you're not. And I think you have heard many stories from people in this, non-religious people who are much older who also thought that when they were younger. And so people go through that. So just making sure that non-religious people, non-religious students know that there is a lot of them out there and there's community out there. But also, I mean, we also, for religious students, also for them recognizing there's a lot of people who think differently from me, including other religions and non-religion. And so helping, I think, share that the growing number really helps non-religious students go, hey, there are a lot of us. And more and more and more, this is okay not to believe this, especially in areas where there's a high predominance or high prevalence of religious activity.
I wish I could encourage more conversations within, say, any given church congregation as to all the different perspectives that are in any one collective, right? Everybody thinks that they all think the same when they really don't.
No.
People in my family for the longest time thought that everybody else in the family thought the same way. And then when they find somebody who doesn't, it's like, oh. So give me an idea about what I understand that there's maybe some changes, or you just want to call to attention to, hey, we're coming out of this pandemic situation. Maybe going right into monkeypox, but who cares? We're coming out. We're trying to do a transition, or we're an emergence, whatever, however you want to phrase it. Please describe that.
Well, I think one of the things that we saw is we know about 80% of our students come from religious families. So and who are now the students that are identifying as non-religious. And so when in March of 2000, when everything shut down, we're all very familiar with, what happened. Religious students went back to their religious families and their religious communities. Very easy. For the majority of our students, they went back to non-religious students. They went back to religious families and religious communities and had to, for most cases, hide their non-religious identity or those thoughts, and didn't have people to talk with, and lost that community that they had on campus, those friends that they hung around with and had discussions with and did projects with and had events. They lost all that instantly. So we completely flipped around everything that we did, and like everyone else, started offering lots of virtual programs. And ours was obviously educational and discussions and those things, but also social things, so that our students could come on and play games and have just sit there and talk for hours with other students across the country who were like them. So we also had lots and lots more individual students now, so who aren't on campuses, who weren't on campus, who, again, I thought, I'm the only one I know of who now have this virtual community and these virtual friends that they can participate in. So we're continuing to do all of that coming out of COVID, and as we're sort of getting a little bit more normal. In recognizing that happening, we did a big project. So we contacted the largest college and universities, public college and universities in every state, and requested their student contact information. And so we directly emailed in most cases 1.4 million students. So the entire campus of the University of Florida or Ohio State University or University of Oklahoma. So just sort of huge swath of students, with the primary, because we knew that 50% ish were going to be religious students, and we knew we were hitting our people in there as well. So we really did. It was a lot of it about just the growing number and having that chance to have that conversation, or at least present that information. So we obviously had links to things. Of course, we also wanted our students to know that there were lots of students out there just like them, about our scholarships, about our conference, about free services that we provide, and just about getting involved and being with other people who are like them.
Give me an idea of these numbers. I mean, because I remember I've been an activist for a long time, since around Y2K. And at that time, I remember there was something in the neighborhood of 3 to 5% of people would identify as atheist. Now, if you have a conversation with somebody, I mean, you may well find out that they don't believe in a God, they don't have any religion, but they don't understand what the word atheist means, so they don't identify as such. And I note that you say non-religious, which maybe that's easier for you because since so few people know what the word atheist means, that it means non-religious, and that's exactly the same thing. But how do you get them to reflect that on a poll? So how do we know? I mean, there was another thing that related to that question was, the irreligious nuns, the people that put themselves in the they have no, what is your religion? None. But that actually included a bunch of people who didn't know what the difference between non-religious and non-denominational. So people who didn't go to church but still were fervently religious were identifying as the nuns. So again, how do we know what our statistics are? And then now we're talking about my generation and generation subsequent to that, not the college kids of today. So how is that demographic changing? I hope you can address all of that.
Sure, and I think and I think to your point, the not that long ago in the general population, 1 out of 5 people used to be non-religious, and that's 1 out of 4. We're getting closer and closer. That's that number rising in the general population. But what we know is the number of students, the number of young people who identify not religious, is about double that of the general population. And so Ryan Burge, who I know many of us are aware of, and but some of his information that comes out with statistics and those sorts of things, and it really identifies more towards the nuns. And within that population, we're looking at almost 50% of young people today are nuns or non-religious. And I do use the more catch-all phrase. So we know that students, as they're coming in, as they're leaving religion, so they may go, okay, I don't like organized religion, but there's the sense of community, the sense of having understanding, or someone telling you what the understanding is, and you haven't had time to sit there and divest that or dissect that, or look at that critically and parse that out for yourself and figure out where you are on that yet. So we know that students come in from us with a lot of different viewpoints, and we have your firebrand hardcore atheists that are out there as well. So we try to be that place where everyone can sort of where everyone can sort of come in and figure that out. We also have religious students who are members of the Secular Student Alliance, so who want to have conversations about religion, maybe express doubt, maybe question why they do things, and surprise, religious communities aren't friendly places or safe places to have those conversations. So they seek out, and many times our chapters and our students, to have those conversations. They may never leave religion, and it may strengthen their religious beliefs. That's fine. At least they have a place to have those conversations.
How do you set up those conversations? How often does that happen?
For most of our student groups, they're meeting weekly. So they have their weekly meetings where they're getting together, having a meeting, having a discussion, having a social event afterwards, planning what events they're going to be doing. We host a variety of events from the national office that the chapters can and students can choose to get involved with, and many do. They also, and the larger impact really, is all the programs that they're doing on campus. The interfaith work, the community service, the discussions that they're having on campus, the protests that they go to, the challenging of their campus, healthcare policies. That's far more the impact that
there's at least
the
three
students are
of
having.
the items that you just mentioned that I want more details about.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, starting with challenging the university's healthcare policies.
So oftentimes this happens more in religious or religiously affiliated schools, where our students where at some Catholic schools, they don't dispense birth control. The information about sex ed is very not factual based. And so our students have challenged that. They've gotten involved in university committees, gotten themselves in leadership positions where they have tried to change those policies. They will be out. Part of our free supplies that we send to students are huge bags of condoms, and so they will be out there on a Catholic institution with those. So they can do that in many different ways, and we
You can
typically
tell that Catholicism doesn't want birth control. Catholicism wants as many babies as possible.
correct.
That's why they've perfected the bad boy image, and that's why they invented those schoolgirl uniforms.
There's probably a lot of historical truth in that, yes. And the Catholic Church has always been, has always made it well known that they want lots of babies in a big population.
Yeah, I remember when Darth I'm sorry, not Darth Benedict. What was his name? You know the Pope that I'm talking about, the one that had to go into hiding.
Yes,
Yeah, the Nazi
yes.
youth who was like who was like covering up for child sex offenders. The one who's still alive but isn't Pope anymore for those controversial reasons. He went in and like into Africa. And he was saying that the use of condoms spreads AIDS. So like, this is an organization that declares itself to be moral, that declares itself to be truth.
And there's, I think, many things that the Catholic Church especially has done to encourage population growth of Catholics.
Yeah. And that may be just because they've been in, they've had unprecedented power or unparalleled power for so long. And now we're seeing that, 703 sexual offenders were being, protected and covered by the evangelical community in a recent report. So why would just putting those out of the, like, as if they're irrelevant, why would students be looking for the Secular Student Alliance? Why would they be wandering away from religion in the first place?
I think one of the things that religion does well is provide community. And so oftentimes when you leave religion, so you also then most times leave you have to leave your religious friends because you're not accepted anymore. So we do find that students want that community. And I think there's inherent in many of us that we also want to do good. And so being in an organization that's having discussions where you can educate yourself and have those sort of things, and is doing community service and is doing good things in the community, students also want to be a part of. So we know from asking our students, why do you get involved? Why do you stay involved? What's the best thing you liked about being involved? the answers will be multiple, but it's all basically community and friends, which is great, which is a great reason to be involved.
One of the criticisms that I've gotten from believers is, you spend an awful lot of time talking about, going to atheist conventions and so forth. I mean, how could you spend so much time talking about what you don't believe? But I spend actually more time talking about what I do believe,
Correct.
that I believe in science, and I believe in ethics and that sort of thing. And I believe in honesty. I mean, every religion declares itself to be the truth, but every religion is supported entirely by lies. And it's not just the way, religious people talk back and forth to each other, where everybody accuses everybody else of being a liar. I don't mean to sound like that. I'm just saying, when you can show the truth of it, then it's something different, when it doesn't require faith like all of these others do. And where my position doesn't have to be protected by criminalizing laws against blasphemy, heresy, apostasy, where you're free to have a completely different opinion to mine, and maybe you could even change my mind if you could produce a valid argument. So these are the kind of conversations I want to have. I want to make sure that my position is justified, or if it's not, I'll drop it.
Well, yeah, and that's, I think, why there's blind faith. So be a little blind to have the faith.
Yeah. So these kids that we've always heard that kids go off to college and then they lose their religion, and that is it just because they're learning the facts of the natural world that were sheltered from them previously, or is there another aspect to that?
There is a special time in college, and my background, I have a master's in student personnel services and studied student development theory, and there is a special time in college, about typical college age, where as humans we are sort of examining what we grew up with and looking at what's going to stick, and forming our own personal identity. And so it is a special time for that to happen. So it's going to be a time developmentally where that happens. And yes, as you sort of alluded to, they're away from their family in most cases for the first time. They're meeting people from different backgrounds, from different belief systems, from different races. Their world has, even with the internet and all the information we have there, their world is just expanded. And that's one of the beauties of higher education and our sort of pluralistic society, where you get that to happen. And so, yes, it's sort of a natural thing to start questioning everything that you've been up, including religion. And it was it wasn't that long ago, probably about 5 years ago, the 12 largest Christian ministries noticed that about 70% of first-year students were leaving the religion. So they didn't define what that meant. My guess is they stopped going to meetings, they stopped going to mass, they stopped going to services, those sorts of things. They were no longer going to the group. So of course they dumped, instantly millions and millions and millions of dollars to try to stop that from happening. The numbers are on our side. It's obvious going to happen. And there's even a U.S. church teen study that was done by religious communities that shows basically what the church. I mean, the church is a great creator of new atheists, just by their own policies and their own hypocrisy, and not accepting the diversity of the world that that the students are exploring and living in. So by far, not living up to rational thought and those sorts of things. So they create many more atheists than we ever could.
There was a poll done at one of the American Atheist National Conventions as to, so everybody's in attendance is, most of them, of course, are American atheists. And that raised in this country means that you were more not likely than not raised to be religious. Very few people were always atheist. So of those who were originally Christian or what have you, and then lost their religion, what was the reason? And the number one reason, well, I'll start with the tertiary answer. Mm-hmm. The tertiary answer was science, and that surprised me. Discovering that evolution is a thing, that it's that your family has lied to you about this forever, and here it's really real. That was the number three answer. The number two answer was the hypocrisy of the church. All of those guys that run these family organizations where they're pro-marriage and all of that, and yet they're cheating on their wives with gay prostitutes. That sort of hypocrisy. That the guy who is so anti-gay that he's running one of these organizations, these national organizations that's homophobic, hates homosexuals, and yet he hires a personal assistant whose advertising this is a Brazilian rent-a-boy whose personal advertisement that was that he was 8 inches uncut. That's imagine having that on your resume. That's your selling point. And so this is the reason that this guy was hired to carry all this other guy's bags, right? So they see this kind of hypocrisy. That's the number 2 answer. The number 1 answer was that they read the Bible.
Mm.
So I have to think that when you go to college, it's for all those people who haven't gone to college, they read the Bible and they become atheists that way. But when you go to college, you experience what I did when I went to college was I found out about all these prejudices I didn't know I had. And of course, the moment I find out that they were prejudices, well, then I've already corrected the issue, right? I mean, when you meet gay people for the first time, when I met a handful of Muslims for the same time, for the first time, and I'd met 1 or 2 who were probably right in line with everything my prejudice told me that they should be. But then meeting people in college where they're much more rational, it was a lot harder to judge them the way that I was previously inclined to or told to. And then, what you mean about other people's ethnicities. I meet somebody from Palestine. I'm like, wow, you're not at all what I expected from, because I was taught, in the trailer parks I grew up in, if you know what I'm saying, I was taught to have all these different ideas about other people. And so I was actually delighted to see all of that confronted and dashed. And
Sure.
then just to realize, okay, well, I was just wrong about everything, but I'm only temporarily so. The people who raised me to be this way, they're still that way, but at least I can fix myself.
Yeah, and I think to your point, it's those personal interactions that really make a difference in our personal understanding of the world. And when those stereotypes and what we've taught have been shattered, is when you really start to open up and really be able to truly explore and be open about other people and learning from other people. And I think you just enrich yourself then.
Very good. Okay, so if is there anything else that you wanted to like promote or call out? If there was any links that you'd like me to include in this, I'd be happy to put those. But I have we covered mostly everything?
Oh, yeah, that's been great. And so yeah, we do have every summer we do our scholarship series. So we always love to let as many students as possible know about our scholarships. So secular activism scholarships. So
Is that included in the link that you gave me before? Because I think I have secularstudents.org.
If you go there, it's in the banner. So it's secularstudents.org/scholarships. So is the direct link, but there's a item on our menu, so you can just click right onto the scholarships. But we have a number of local organizations who are also sponsoring those with us. So Texas and California, and we sponsor one with Black non-believers and Hispanic American freethinkers. So we've got a lot of different scholarships, and want to get that information out as much as possible, so that we have students doing amazing things, and we want to make sure that we're helping them.
Of course, if you're a student in a school that doesn't have a secular student alliance, again, you can go to this website and then it lets you know how to create one. Can you give advice on how you can assemble other like-minded people in such a college?
Sure. So if you're at a school or a campus that doesn't have a SSA chapter and you want to start one, really easy. There's a form you just fill out. Our campus organizers, we have great staff who will contact you within like 24 hours. They've got help you through every step of the way, finding out what you need to do on your campus or your school. We have tons of free supplies that we send. So we try to make that as easy as possible and give the students as much assistance as they need. And again, we have tons of free stuff that we send them. Included in that is like flyers and a banner and business cards. And then we do social media promotion on the backside to help other students find out that they've started a chapter and those sorts of things. So we have tons of free services and support that we give to our students, and our campus organizing staff is great. And they're on the phone or doing video chats or texting, messaging with students all the time.
So it's been a long time since I've seen the speaker list. But I remember going through the Secular Student Alliance speaker list and realizing that, okay, well, we can meet these people. We can have them in the room with us and shake hands with these people and such. I'd like to see that list again. I mean, do you remember just off the top of your head some of the top names that are still there that students could have like come to they're not there's necessarily their classroom, but whatever room they're meeting in.
Yeah, coming in and talking with them for a meeting just with the chapter,
Yeah,
or coming to the campus and doing a larger event. And I think you have done some of those in the past.
I have.
You have been to a few campuses. So Dan Barker is absolutely fantastic. He actually, with Freedom from Religion Foundation, he actually gives us his travel schedule when he's active, and it's like, let whoever I can go to. We do it for free, so they're super generous. Any of the lawyers at Freedom from Religion Foundation, so they've made that open to the organization or to our students and those sorts of things. But we do have a number of
That
people.
doesn't sound interesting. I've talked to some of these people, and okay, so you're a lawyer from this organization. Well, yeah, but have you heard him speak? Have you read his book?
They have some great lawyers at FFRF, and who do, they actually have a lot of younger lawyers who are the topics that our students want to hear about. They're interested in, they're also doing things on. So we have had some great relationships there. But we're actually you mentioned we're actually in the process of redoing our speakers list, and now we're working with. And we'll have it out in the fall for our students again. So we're redoing it this summer, but having people who can on campus sort of information and virtual information. So it used to be all fairly on campus. And so I think now everyone's expectation has changed a lot more. So we've been, Rob Boston with Americans United for Separation of Church and State has talked to several of our chapters virtually. And so that has really opened things up. Mandisa Thomas is always a popular one in speaking. And so, we have lots of opportunities for.
Yeah, I could see that. And
doing virtual things, we have even more and more opportunity now. So one of the things that we do have coming up is we did our big outreach to the large universities, public universities across the country. We're working with Black Non-Believers and American Humanist Association, and we're doing intentional specific outreach to the historically Black college and universities. So the public ones will actually be requesting that information, doing direct emails, direct text messages, direct mailings to outreach to them, and then working with the private ones in working through their student activities office, their chaplain's office, and those sorts of things, just to increase the awareness for largely communities of color and Black students to just be aware, know that the growing population within that community, and if they want to get involved, getting involved as well.
Okay, I think I've covered everything that was off the top of my head at the moment. So and we've got like your upcoming information. All of that is in the link. How to start up. All right. Yep. I'm going to leave you with make a closing comment. I guess we're done.
Okay.
No, make a closing comment.
Yeah. So Aaron, it was great being here with you today. I appreciate talking with you. We're often asked if anyone wants to help support students. So our organization is supported by many, many donors. And so if people want to directly help secular students in college, universities, high schools, and middle schools, it's easy to go to our website, hit the donate button. There's lots of different ways for you to give. And the money really goes directly to helping students across the country.
Outstanding. All right. Well, Mr. Bolling, thank you very much for being on.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your time and having me.